You are now listening to the Take a Charge podcast, hosted by Aaron and Adam McCoy. Our guest today is a recent graduate of The Ohio State University. Both Adam and I played high school basketball with him. And as of right now, I do not believe it's documented, but I can almost guarantee that he holds our school's record for the most charges taken. Please welcome the chairman of charges himself, Brad Grosjean.
Man, I'm flattered. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. This is pretty cool. I love the podcast you guys are doing, and it's fun to talk about sports always.
Yeah, so Brad was 3 years ahead of me, I think, and 1 year behind Adam in high school, so kind of overlapped into Adam's high school basketball career, and then start of mine.
Yeah, we definitely had some interesting moments. 2 years that we played together, and then the 1 year that I got to watch you play with Brad.
So I think my first question has to be, what's the record for the most charges that you took in a game?
Okay, I'm trying to think back. It was definitely at least 4. I can't remember if I ended up getting a 5th charge. And I remember in that game specifically, like, there was about 3 of them that all came within a quarter, like the first quarter of the game. And I remember looking over after my 3rd charge to the coach of the opposite team, and he was just livid, like, stop running into him. Like, I wasn't doing anything. I was just so it was fun.
I'm sure some of those charges weren't exactly super pleasant either.
No, I mean, the whole idea, and this kind of came down to strategy on defense. When you got someone who's 5'6", 5'7" in his time in high school, I'm not blocking anyone's shots. So if I don't have a chance to steal it, the lower yard of the ground, the easier it is to fall. So the minute I got a little bit of contact, it was a yell and fall down on your butt.
Gotta add the yell in there too.
Oh, always, yes.
Gotta sell the charge.
Yeah.
So with being an NBCA, did you have any favorite basketball memories, or what was some of your favorite basketball memories of playing there?
Yeah, so thinking back to when I first started, Adam, this is going to be some with you, and this is actually some of the joys of getting to be on the bench at times. But I remember when you and I, a few times here and there, would like keep stats and things like that for Coach Pugh or others. And I remember we would always just have some like superstitious things that we try to do when people go to shoot a free throw. Like, I don't know, we'd like pretend to like look somewhere, or we pretend to like clap 3 times or something just for fun. And if it went in, we'd do it again until it didn't work, and then change it again. So some of my favorite memories were just getting to do that with you, getting to sit on the bench a little bit. But then I would say in games, 3 of my favorite memories. One was a comeback against Euler. I would say I feel like it was my sophomore year. Just I remember that second half, we were down by like, I want to say close to 18 or 20-ish. And so that was cool to get to be a part of that comeback. And then victories my junior year over Cincinnati Christian and Dayton Christian, as those were 2 teams we were fighting a lot for the top seed. So those were really fun, close wins to get to pull out.
Yeah, I remember the comeback over Euler. I was not on the team anymore when you guys played Cincinnati Christian, Dayton Christian, and beat them your junior year. But I definitely remember those fun moments on the bench when we would just look at somebody funny and just continue our superstitious traditions until, like you said, they missed the shot. So those are some fun moments, both on the bench and in the games. I think for me, some of my favorite ones in game probably came from those years with Coach Pugh, which I know you would have only overlapped for one, but both years that I played, my freshman and sophomore year under Coach Pugh, we had the chance to go to and win the OCSAA state championship. It was really fun at the time, especially my freshman year, because we were really not that good. The entire season, we finished with a record. I think we had like 6 wins, but we were really fighting above our weight class the whole time. We had a ton of freshmen on the team, but the way that we kind of meshed and came together as the season went on, and then ultimately pulled it out in the end, was really special for me. And then my sophomore year, your freshman year, I think it was more the case that we were in the driver's seat the whole season and continued to build on what we had laid the foundation for the year prior. I think some of my favorite moments also were in a couple of the JV games that we played together with some iconic players under Sonny Snell. I think my favorite was we had lost, I think, our first probably 8 games or so. And the thought crossed my mind of how traditionally the Cleveland Browns will take a little while to get their first win of the season. And there was always somebody in the end zone that would have a banner that said 16-0, 15-1, 14-2, 13-3, etc. starts today. And so at that point in the season, I think we played we had 20 games for JV or so. And at that point in the season, we had 12 left because we had played 8 and we were 0-8. And so I took that thought to you and Isaiah Toole and said, you know what? 12-8 starts today.
Right here, right now.
12-8 starts today. And we were playing a varsity team the day that it was Immaculate Conception. Yeah, which is a team that MVCA has occasionally played in varsity. I know you played them in varsity, Aaron, but we would at times send our JV to play them just because they were a smaller school when I was at MVCA. And sure enough, we went out and we ended up, I think, winning by 15 or 20 points. And that winning streak continued. I think we maybe only lost 1 or 2 games the rest of the season. So that was one of the most enjoyable moments for me, was just being able to turn that around and kind of be able to demonstrate some leadership along with you and the other people on that team.
Yeah, get that fire going.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my freshman year, myself and Max Hunkler, one of my best friends, were called up to play varsity. And the first maybe 4 or 5 games, I didn't really see much action. I got a little playing time, but with him and Donald Tharp, who was in your class, Brad, being on the bench and kind of just being the hype men, it was really around the same time that like bench celebrations were like really taking off. Like now you just see like bench celebrations as part of the game, but back in, I don't know, 2015, 2016, like it was getting a lot of coverage on social media and everybody was trying to think of different celebrations to do. So like we'd think of some pretty funny ones. I don't think we did anything outrageous, but coming up with those things, especially like if we were like blowing out a team, like that was always fun, just like coming up with different celebrations after someone would hit a 3 or after you take a charge. And that was always one of my favorite parts of my freshman year. Going forward, our teams didn't really have the best record, but we had some great games that I remember. My sophomore year, we played Cincinnati College Prep, and we went into double overtime against them, and we ended up winning in double overtime. My junior year, we played Summit Country Day. Being our second year in the Miami Valley Conference, we still really hadn't gotten our footing, and that was I think that was probably my favorite win that we had that year. And we were down going into halftime. I wasn't really shooting well. I maybe only had like 1 bucket at the time, and then second half we ended up just like really playing hard. Like we had some great ball movement, we were making shots, and we were playing good defense. And so going into the fourth quarter, or at least one point in the fourth quarter, I think we were still down 11, but we were like, we never felt like we were out of the game, and we ended up winning that game by maybe 1 or 2 at the end. And I think that was a big upset for us. No one really looked at us as a real threat on the schedule at that point in the season, but that was definitely a fun win, and one that probably ranks among my favorite NBCA basketball memories. I think another one probably has to be, I got my 1,000th point in my senior year, and I did it at an away. I got it at an away game against CHGA, And so our first game back from Christmas break, our first home game back from Christmas break, I had a bunch of family there, and NBCA revealed a banner with my name and the other 1,000-point scorers at NBCA. And so that was really special to me, just having a bunch of family and friends there and being able to celebrate that milestone with my teammates, my coaches, and a lot of friends and family.
Yeah, then you guys went on senior night too.
Yeah, we
was a good cap to that
senior
season.
night. Senior night was a fun game, a kind of a great way to cap off that season. We kind of had a rough season, but that was a great win.
Say I enjoyed your all the celebrations you guys did on the bench and stuff
Yeah.
too. That was pretty great.
So, as of right now, I know you're not doing much in the way of organized sports, but
I
how has playing basketball in high school prepared you for your life, like after high school, after sports?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say that is probably also one of my favorite things about getting to play sports. Is something I would encourage kids who are interested in doing it, and parents try to say, "Hey, what should I get my kids involved in?" Sports is a huge way. I think that it's impacted other areas of my life during it and after it. Just to come up with a few, I think one of the things that I probably learned the most is learning to play to people's strengths on a team. For myself, recognizing what my weaknesses and my limitations are, and then learning to play with people who are good in the areas where I'm weak, and vice versa, and how we can mesh together, play hard for one another. That's served me well, and just other group projects that I've done in school, and then now getting to work. I could say this right now with my job at Horizon Community Church that I got some coworkers who are amazing at things that I am terrible at. And so it's great to be like, great, you do that, I'll do this, and we're a well-oiled machine. So I'd say that's been good. I'd say just discipline and perseverance, learning to be good in the little things, knowing that the little things matter. If you do those little things well, it starts to build upon itself and creates a good foundation. And then finally, learning to have fun even when all things go wrong. There's plenty of times where I'd say I had games or practices where I was going, man, this is not fun at all right now. But learning amidst the negative events or things that are going on, for me to be able to look and say, like, hey, look, let's take a step back, look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, look at the positive in things.
Yeah, like exactly. Like that's going to be a life where things are not going to go well. You're going to have days where you feel like you're 0 for 15. And to still be able to look at the positive things, to be like, hey, look at this. I'm physically like able to go play a game right now, and look, I'm able to go hang out with friends, and still like you could still find those things even when things are going wrong. So I would say those are just a few things for me that I loved with basketball and other sports that prepared me for life after that.
What about you? How is sports, and specifically your basketball and football career, I guess, since that was probably your main sport? How did high school sports prepare you for life after sports, life after high school, going to college and starting your career?
Well, I think what Brad talked about with his team, where there are certain people that have certain functions or different skills that allow them to contribute in unique ways to the team. That's evident in basketball, but I think it's even more so evident in football because you have such distinct positions. So I played on the offensive and defensive line, which is obviously a lot different than playing wide receiver or quarterback, but everybody plays their distinct role. And so far at Empire Marketing Strategies in Kroger, I'm part of, I want to say, a 6-person team. And we all generally have the same structural position in terms of where we are just on the company hierarchy. But each of us tends to specialize in a certain function of the business. I've learned that in the last 8 months since I was hired in June, that there are certain people you go to with certain questions and certain people you can go to with others. And that's not to say that anybody is less competent than anyone else on anything, but it's this fact that everybody is intertwined in this team, helping to bring success to whatever's going on at Empire and Kroger. And I think that's one of the major lessons that I've taken with me from sports.
When we have our team meetings for Heidelberg, we talk a lot about committing to one goal and everybody doing their part and filling their role, pushing us forward to that goal. So obviously basketball is becoming a positionless game, but you're going to have people who are in the paint, in there to rebound and play defense on the big man. You're going to have shooters, you're going to have ball handlers, facilitators. And I think when everybody plays in their role, knows what their role is, and does that to the best of their ability, everyone meshes together. You have great chemistry, you get good ball movement, and you are committed to winning the game. And I think the positions that you have in basketball equate to the positions you have in your career, in life. I think working well together to work towards one common goal is really important, and one thing that sports and basketball do really well.
Would you say that it's improved your people skills to just the way that you're able to interact with others?
Definitely. I think being on a team kind of forces you to, even when you might not want to interact or you might have some feelings towards another player, that's still your teammate, that's still your brother. You're still on the same team and working towards the goal of winning this game, improving everybody's skills. So I think it teaches you to work with one another. It teaches you to work with people you might not have worked with if they weren't on your team. I think that definitely comes into play there. So moving on to some NBA action. The season's been getting pretty good this last week. Some eventful games and moments. One of them being LeBron and the Lakers. This week had three straight overtime wins. Two against the OKC Thunder and one against the Detroit Pistons. And with their win last night over the Grizzlies, they've won 7 in a row now. And with those 3 overtime games, LeBron, who has kind of been down in his minutes this year, was getting probably 40-plus minutes. And one of those overtime games was a double overtime game. And I think he came out and said, my heart can take one overtime game, but it's kind of getting hard at 36 years old to take 2 overtime games. So I was wondering what you guys think about, obviously he's still putting up 25, 5 and 5 within those games. I think he had 40 something in a couple of them, but what kind of toll would these overtimes take on LeBron in this season? It's kind of been they've had some moments where they've had to battle back in games. What kind of toll do you think this has on LeBron at this stage of his career?
I'll start by saying that I'm a lot more impressed with the 7 straight wins than I am with the 3 overtimes in a row, because those teams weren't necessarily ones that you figured to give the Lakers trouble, but
shows up in the win column though.
It does, and it says a lot about the team that they were able to fight back even when they didn't. In baseball, the term is when a pitcher doesn't have his best stuff. That's kind of what I think of with the Lakers in those games, but it is really impressive for LeBron. I wouldn't be surprised at all if you saw him go on some sort of a minutes restriction as we get into the heart of the season here. I don't think there's really a big chance of the Lakers slipping too much in the standings, even with him playing fewer minutes.
Yeah, I think he'll kind of pull back his minutes a little bit, but I don't see him going on a load management rest, because he's definitely one that will play 82 or I guess 72 with this season. But he doesn't sit out this late in his career. He hasn't tended to sit out many games just because he wants to maximize the seasons that he has left.
Right. Yeah, I see him being one of those players that really doesn't sit unless they've already clinched, as we discussed last week with his time in the Cavs in one of the games we went to, or if he's injured, obviously. So I think it's very impressive that he's been able to maintain the level of play and the level of minutes that he has.
How many years do you think he's got left, Brad?
Oh man, I mean, this feels like the kind of, it's always all these GOAT conversations. I mean, if you think back to Tom Brady, right? Like just the season he's had. In my head, I go, will it ever end? I feel like with him, when he looks over it and over the hedge, where he's like, it never ends. I don't know, man. With LeBron, I feel like this dude could go on for. I'd say he definitely has 5 more seasons in him, at least, still left.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing at an MVP level,
right?
And he's at this age where other players that are younger than him have lost a step or multiple steps, and he's still playing probably better than he ever has been with the way he passes, the way he's facilitating the offense, and
it's a complete game.
He's still dominant. And I think we've seen players in the past who have gotten older. Like, I mean, you've seen Kobe and Jordan kind of adjust their game as they've gotten older, maybe not as explosive, but LeBron is still as explosive as ever, getting up and, I mean, getting put back dunks off the rebounds. He's driving to the paint. He's bullying people down low. I mean, and he's super fast. Like, he's not slowing down at all. And I think he hasn't lost a step in with that. I think he can play. I mean, I think he can play well into his 40s. And I think one of his goals too is the possibility of playing with his son. And if his son makes it to that level while he's still playing, I think that's one thing he'll try and do is play with his son.
Is there any chance in your mind that LeBron or any of the other elder statesmen in the NBA this season, Stephen Curry included, have a shot at running for the MVP?
Yeah, I mean, I think LeBron is definitely at the top right now in terms of the MVP candidacy. I think the way he's playing, the way his team is playing is definitely pointing towards him, at least at this point in the season right now. And I think the MVP ladder kind of shows that. I think it's obvious that he's the best player in the league on the best team in the league right now. I think Joel Embiid, I think he's putting up like career numbers. He's playing well. He's lost a lot of the comments that people have made about him, like being too slow, not being in shape, not being able to play the whole game. He's worked himself back into shape. He's playing well. He's playing more minutes. I think he has a shot. I think he's probably my number 2 pick right now. I can see Steph moving into that number 3 spot. With the way he's playing right now, I think he's at that level or maybe above that level of where he was when he won it in 2016. Obviously, he's got different pieces on his team. They don't have as good a record, obviously. They're 14-12 right now, the Warriors. They've lost a couple, but Steph is still – he's averaging 30 points a game. His last 4 games, he's put in 40, 32, 32, and then he put up 57 versus Luka Doncic. They ended up losing that game, but that's still insane for Steph Curry, for people that wrote him off, that said Kevin Durant was carrying him the years they won the championships after the loss to the Cavs in 2016. But I think Steph is as good as ever. I think Steph is kind of tired of the slander that people have been putting on his name, but I think he has a shot at least being in the running for it. I don't know if he'll be able to get into that top spot with the way his team is playing. Obviously, the MVP discussion kind of falls a little bit within the record of the team. Obviously, Bradley Beal, who's averaging 35 points a game, is not going to be in the MVP conversation with how the Wizards are playing, at least at this point in the season. But I think Steph kind of has a shot at being in the running for MVP this year with LeBron and Embiid.
Hypothetical for you, Brad. If Klay Thompson returns this season and the Warriors are propelled into, conservatively say, a 5 or a 4 seed and make a deep run in the playoffs, not necessarily to the finals, does that impact Steph's MVP candidacy in your mind?
I mean, I think it would depend on how much impact Clay would end up doing. And again, this comes back to, it's always within injuries, and especially injuries like Clay's had. I feel terrible for him, like having to come back from those. How much is he going to be able to do? I would say, I would probably going to guess to say not actually that much. If anything, I think right now I have Steph on a higher level for MVP right now, especially just considering, we think through who is the most valuable player for a team right now. And I think it's going to reveal more so along the lines of LeBron and Steph. And the way Steph's playing right now, like you're saying, it's crazy. He's playing really good ball right now. And I think he's one of the biggest reasons the Warriors are even staying afloat with all of the transitions that have happened with people leaving and with people like Clay getting hurt. He's been playing really, really well. And typically we think too is to like all the kind of players on the Nets who would typically be MVP players, with all three of them now playing on the same team. I don't think you're going to see any of them winning MVP. So not this year.
So with Kevin Durant coming back, do you think he is out of that conversation, or do you think, I mean, he's averaging close to 30 points right now, and I think if the Nets can kind of get their defense together and relatively stay COVID and injury free,
Right.
do you think they can, do you think they're finals bound or championship bound, and two, do you think Kevin Durant has a shot at that MVP spot?
And 3, do you think they have a chance against the Warriors tonight?
Oh, hey. All right. We'll go with the first couple ones. I think when it comes to Nets going like what they might look like in the playoffs, I think they'll at least win out one round. But as of right now, early in the season, and a whole lot of this is probably going to change as they start to gel more. But I still have a feeling like they're going to disappoint with where people have them. I think they're going to end up losing or getting upset or just losing to a better seed. When it comes to Durant MVP conversation, or either Harden or Irving too, I think even with those numbers, if he's in the conversation, it won't be enough of a conversation for him to win it, not this year. And then I would say for tonight against the Warriors, that's going to be interesting. I don't really know what to tell you there. That's going to be tight. I don't really know who to choose on that one. I think I'm going to slightly inch for the Nets over the Warriors for today.
So KD's coming back tonight after being out from COVID for the last, well, he didn't have COVID, just protocol.
Contact tracing,
and he's been out for the last probably 6 or 7 days. So he's back tonight. Kyrie's been listed as having like a finger sprain or something, and he's kind of been dealing with that for the last week or so. He was out one of the games, I think it was against the Sixers last week, and then he put up 1 for 8 against the Pistons. But I think he's available tonight. So I think they have their main 3, and then DeAndre Jordan is out tonight. I think he just listed for personal reasons, but I think it'll be a good game. I think for me, seeing Harden's production level, he's been doing great in terms of facilitating. I do think he needs to be more aggressive because against the Pistons, Kyrie Irving had, I think, twice as many shots as James Harden, and Kevin Durant's not even playing. And I feel like when you're out one of your top scorers, you need someone else to step up. And I think Harden maybe only had 24 that night. Kyrie had 27, but Kyrie took twice as many shots. So I think he needs to be a little bit more aggressive. There's been points in the season where I've seen him just kind of he'll catch the defense off guard and like kind of lull him to sleep with his dribbles, and then he'll just pass it off and someone will miss a 3. Other times it works because when he does that, he'll catch other defenders lacking and hit someone wide open for a corner 3. And that times it works, but I do think he needs to be more aggressive. but I do think he's doing a great job of facilitating that a lot of people didn't think he'd be able to do, didn't think he'd be able to take that back seat. So I think it'll be good to see KD back and to have them all work together again.
Is the game at Golden State or at Brooklyn?
Yeah, so it's at Golden State. It's at the Chase Center, and it's Kevin Durant's first game back against the Warriors since he left a couple years ago. So he was injured all last season with the Achilles, and this is his first time back against Steph and Draymond. So I think it'll be interesting. Obviously, I don't think Chase Center is letting fans in, so I don't think he'll get any boos. I don't know what the feeling is with KD leaving. I don't think it's as bad as him when he left the Oklahoma City Thunder, but I'm sure there's a little beef with him and Draymond. I don't know. I think Brooklyn will come out on top. I just think they have a few more pieces that Golden State doesn't, and especially with Golden State having some injuries. James Wiseman's been out with a hand injury, but they've been kind of running the small ball lineup. So I think KD and the Nets will pull this one out.
Well, in the spirit of coming back to a place you left, Aaron, I know you are excited about the news that High C Orange is coming back to McDonald's.
High C Orange was my favorite drink at McDonald's. Like when we'd go to McDonald's, I'd always get the High C Orange. And when they dropped it, I think I tweeted about it. I was like, I'm not happy about them losing the High C Orange. And then I saw this week it was like trending on Twitter. Like High C Orange was trending on Twitter, and I was like, what is going on with High C Orange? And I looked, and McDonald's had tweeted that it was coming back. So it was nice to see that I was not the only one that missed McDonald's High C Orange. And I think with McDonald's High C, it hits different than regular High C Orange. I think McDonald's High C Orange, they put something in it that makes it just even better. So I'm excited. I don't know when it comes back, but I'm excited to get it back and have it once again.
Brad, do you have any fond memories associated with High C Orange, either at McDonald's or in juice box form?
Well, the juice box form after soccer games, I think that's probably the memories I'll get to have with that. Never had a bad High C Orange, which, by the way, I love the segue there. Yeah, man, it's good. It's just bundles of sugar, but it's good. So I agree. I never knew it was gone because I haven't really been to McDonald's in a bit, but very happy they're coming back. I'm happy for you, Aaron.
Whether you win or lose those soccer games, you always end on a high note.
That's right.
With High C.
So another food-related or restaurant-related topic we have for this week. I don't know how well-known Ponderosa is. It's basically like a Golden Corral type buffet.
But Ponderosa, thankfully, has stayed afloat. Sadly, even prior to the pandemic, our one closest to us in Cincinnati, which was Florence, Kentucky, closed down, which I was very distraught over. But we do still have one open in Hillsboro and one open really close to where our grandma on our mom's side lives.
Yeah, we went to visit grandparents last weekend. Grandparents were number one priority for Adam, but I think a close 1B, if you will, was going to Ponderosa. So Adam, when asked if he could eat one food, like if he could only have one food for the rest of his life and that's all he could eat, he picked the double breaded wings from Ponderosa. So
that sounds good.
He was going. We decided on going there for lunch. He had one goal in mind, and that was to just fill up on wings. And I think he ended up getting about 2 plates full, and then asking the staff there if he could take some home. Or I think he first asked if he could get the recipe. They said, we can't give out the recipe, but we can give you a bag to take home. So we have about 40 wings sitting in our freezer for Adam's enjoyment at some point later.
Brad, so that you're aware, since you're not familiar with Ponderosa, the rest of their menu and the rest of their buffet is okay, but pretty much unremarkable for the most part. It's it is what it is, typical buffet food. But the wings have some sort of perfect, like Aaron said, it's double breading,
Sounds good.
which I don't know of another place that does double breading on their wings that we've had. But it's heavily salted, but not to the extreme that your mouth dries up. So it's perfect. When we were there, as Aaron said, I got roughly 2 full plates, so about 20 wings,
Oh man.
perfectly paired with a nice Mountain Dew,
Oh,
and then chased down with some soft serve. And it was a fantastic experience. And when we were leaving, I had been told by our waitress that they were allowed to sell the wings frozen. She had priced them out the same to ordering wings hot and ready to go, which I thought, I guess that's reasonable. Really, you only bake them for 20, 30 minutes. So when we got to the counter, I asked the gentleman who was checking people in and taking payments if he could go check on that for me. And he came back with a spectacular price point of $15 for 40 frozen wings.
I'm coming with you next time, man. You're a man on a mission.
Absolutely. He was a little surprised when Aaron told him that it was my favorite food. I think his response was something along the lines of, shoot, I work here and I don't even think that. But I was happy to get that deal, to get the bag, if you will, of Ponderosa wings. And we have 40 ready to pop in the oven anytime. I will definitely in the future be requesting that anytime we go to Ponderosa, get that supply.
You're saving, putting them in the oven right now, kind of spacing them out, because that was only like a week ago, but he hasn't touched them yet. I think I asked him when he wanted to break into them, and he's like, "Oh, not anytime soon. We're saving those for a special occasion." So
you need a little recovery time, and you also need the moment to be right. They would have been, and they were, a perfect day of Super Bowl food.
Nice.
So we'll hopefully have, like you were talking about, Brad, we're hoping to get back to watching a little more college hoops in the coming weeks, and maybe there will be a marquee matchup, OSU and one of the other Big Ten contenders in the coming weeks.
Maybe you could use those wings as like positive reinforcement for things too, of like, if I do this, I get a win.
If I get all of my work done today.
So, Brad, one more topic before we go. After the new year, everyone's looking for new resolutions, and one of the most popular is wanting to read more. So, Brad, number one, how's your reading been going? And two, what books have you been reading?
Yeah, sure. So, I was just telling Adam and Aaron this beforehand. I was kind of surprised. Say, looking back at most of my life, reading was never a hugely fun thing to do, especially when you got into high school, because it's like, great, you have to read these weird books that I don't really care what the deep meaning is. And it wasn't until probably last year of college that the idea struck me. Wait a minute, I could actually read books that are interesting to me if I want to, if there's a cool topic in mind. And so I started to dig back into stuff. And what I'll do when I go read books is kind of write up summaries of the books afterwards, just short and quick, so I don't have to feel like I read through it again, but just go back and look at my summary. And I was like, wait a minute, I just starting this new year, I've ended up reading 7 books since the new year. And it's been really great too, at least the books that I get to read. They're typically along the lines of philosophy, theology, leadership. And so for me, especially working at a church, this is stuff that's very applicable to my day-to-day life, both in work and then outside of work. So it's been fun getting to do that. I can go into more details about the books if you want me to, but not all 7.
What's been your favorite?
All right. My favorite one, let's see. Oh, it's tough. There's one that's been more of just a science, and then one that's been more so on theology, but I'll go with the one I just finished. I finished it last night, actually. It's called Dangerous Prayers by Brad Grosjean. And the book is split up into 3 different parts based on 3 different prayers of characters in the Bible. One of the first section is "Search Me," which is a prayer David gave, looking to just kind of be open with the sin in his life and being willing to ask God to come in and reveal areas where he could be looking more like Christ. We look into the second part of the book is "Break Me," which goes back to Jesus whenever he was doing communion and breaking bread. It's interesting how I never really saw this before, but when he says, "Hey, do this in remembrance of me," it's not only just a communion aspect of breaking the bread to remember his sacrifice of being broken, but his call to do this is also part of something for us too, which it's all the way through his message of deny yourself, pick up your cross, follow me. For following him, that means broken is going to be part of the definition of being a follower, which is hard. And then the third one was "Send Me," and this was after Isaiah's prayer in chapter 6, asking like, "Oh Lord, there's a message to give. Send me. I'll go do it." And so I was like, yeah, with all three of those, they were all extremely, extremely convicting because I could tell like I'm someone who's been very addicted to safety, comfort. My prayers are very just like, "Oh Lord, I pray we have a great day today." And if that prayer was answered, it didn't make a difference in the world. And so it's been something for me that's been really just pushing me to say, hey, how is it that I want to relate to the Lord? What do I want to do with my time here on earth? Let's pray for something a little more real, a little more dangerous, a little more impactful. So,
yeah, I think that's definitely respectable. A lot of people would probably see or perceive from the outside the Christian life as being one of turning to God for comfort and peace and security, which in certain aspects he is for sure, but he also calls us to live a life that's different than what the world would expect of us, and that's hard a lot of times. So great insights from that, and certainly respect the hustle, if you will, on reading the 7 books to start the new year. That's impressive.
It's starting to get addicting now because it's actually like useful stuff. It's nice, like, oh, let me learn something new.
Is it kind of bringing you back to elementary school where you get like certain points for reading however many books? Like you read 5 books.
What's your AR charm tally, Brad?
Too many to count. Not because I thoroughly enjoyed all those. There was a few books I liked. If you guys remember, like Magic Treehouse.
I remember those books.
Yeah, I like Jigsaw Jones was a big one too back in the day. If anyone remembers
Did
that.
Mrs. B ever have you guys read Time Warp Trio?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, it was a big one for her.
I like. Even with that, I'm going to be honest, might have gotten some of those charms by just really skimming enough to pass the test because I just wanted the charm count. It's been a little bit different now where I'm like, all right, let me actually take time getting to read some of this stuff. It's been good.
Right.
Yeah, incentivized by knowledge and not Pizza Hut.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you get the free pizza, the free personal pay in Pizza Hut.
Hey, I'll tell anyone out there who's looking to go, like, wanting to get back into reading or wanting to try it for the first time, like, don't think you have to go read something boring. Please go read anything that's just like, I'm interested in. This would be fun.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've kind of found myself, like, there's books that I think I should be reading, and then there's books I want to be reading. So, like, I think I started a book a couple years ago, and I didn't really finish it. And I, instead of like trying to keep going back to that book to finish it, I was like, why am I wasting my time? Why am I going back to this book I don't want to read when I can just go to a different one?
Yeah.
So right now I'm reading the Rap Yearbook by Shea Serrano. Shea Serrano's he's an author and works at the Ringer podcast network, and he's written basketball and other things, which I've read, the Rap Yearbook, and movies and other things. And I think he's coming out with a new one. It's either hip hop and other things or rap and other things, and I'm really excited for that one. But I have all his books right now. I'm going through Rap Yearbook. It's really good. It goes through all the different, like, he'll choose like one of the most like influential rap songs of the year every year since like 1978 or something like that, up to, I think at the time it was written, it was like 2015. So he takes like different songs, and then with basketball and other things, it was like different random topics. Like one of my favorite topics from this book was, if the Purge started, whose player group would you go into? Like who would you want to spend the night with? And it was like, I think the top one that's like you're surviving the night was Ben Wallace from the Bulls and the Pistons, and it was like he's got a body chiseled out of the side of a mountain. He's protecting you at all costs, and if he has to sacrifice you for some reason, it's an honorable sacrifice. Like you're not dying in vain. But I'm finishing up the Rap Year book. I'm really excited to read movies and other things. He's definitely one of my favorite authors right now, and he's a pretty funny guy. What about you, Adam? Are you reading anything right now?
I am. I'm very heavily on the theological side, kind of like Brad, theological, philosophical. So,
closing this episode, Brad, do you have anything to plug, or you want to say anything before we go?
Yeah, well, I'll first like to say thank you for you guys having me on this podcast too. Like I said, it's cool what you're getting to do, and it's been really fun to sit here, catch up with you guys, and get to talk about some of this stuff. I would say for anyone else too, just to get to know a little bit more about me, if things such as theology is something that you're interested in as well, I have a pretty small YouTube channel called Out of the Boat, and in that it's not really current as much anymore. I don't have as much time to get to do stuff, but for a few summers I got to put some videos out there of just stuff that I was reading. I obviously have learned a lot more since those couple years, but if it's something you're interested in, feel free to check that out on YouTube, Out of the Boat. And then right now I'm getting to work over at Horizon Community Church. And so it's over in Newtown, Ohio, in the Cincinnati area. If you're looking for churches to go to, I get to help out a lot with getting to teach the middle school here. And so it's been fun getting to do, and I'd love to get to hang out, meet with any of you guys out there, whether you want to just grab food or something. I'm in the area, so.
Well, thank you, Brad, for being our guest today on Take a Charge. All of our episodes, including this one, will be on Spotify and on our YouTube channel. Let us know what you think, what kind of topics you want us to discuss on our next episode. But that's all. Have a great week.